Clovis, the verdict's still being read out. We have heard, though, from one of the judges that the evidence against 4 members of Hezbollah who are being tried in absentia was almost entirely circumstantial. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, it was a crucial point in this trial, and the Special Tribunal for Lebanon has found no evidence of involvement of Syria or Hezbollah leadership in the assassination of the former Prime Minister of Lebanon, Rafik Hariri. It was a crucial point. It could trigger tensions here in Lebanon. Of course, the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, had warned beforehand that he would maintain the innocence of the 4 members of the Iran-backed group, the 4 suspects, those standing trial in absentia. He said he would ignore the verdict. This has been, of course, a long-awaited trial, the assassination of Rafik Hariri that took place just behind me near the St. George, a landmark here in Beirut, traumatized the nation. It led to a flare-up of violence, triggered a wave of attacks and further tensions between the various communities here in Lebanon. Over the last few days, I can tell you that the atmosphere here in Beirut was uneasy, uncertain. People very scared here that this verdict could lead to a flare-up of violence. Lebanon, a country in a state of nearly chaos, on the brink of chaos. Lebanon suffering, of course, from the double explosion that took place at the port, a devastating blast that killed more than 170 people, led to more than 6,000 injured and nearly 300,000 people without homes. And here, of course, in Lebanon, a lot of people were worried are worried that this verdict could lead to tensions between communities and violence on the street.
Clovis, you mentioned that tragic blast from 2 weeks ago today. What is the situation like there now in regard to that tragedy?
Well, scenes here remind the Lebanese of the very dark times of the civil war. Scenes of devastation here, destroyed buildings, a lot of rubble still throughout Beirut. The double explosion caused by those 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate that caught fire at the port of Beirut led to huge destruction across the Lebanese capital, with areas of Beirut practically entirely destroyed. A lot of rubble still on the streets, a tragedy, and it comes also at a very difficult time for the country. Lebanon is going through an economic crisis with purchasing power at an all-time low, and now we're also witnessing a surge in COVID-19 cases. And of course, you've got these demonstrations that took place at the end of last year, calling for the removal of the government, for the removal of all political parties. Well, these demonstrations are still going on following the explosions. People are taking to the streets saying that the government is to blame for this situation. The government knew about these 2,700 tons of very dangerous ammonium nitrate stored in the port of Beirut. People here calling for the removal of all traditional political parties, and these demonstrations have turned violent in the past, and there are fears in Beirut here today that there could be more violence today during the march, with demonstrators walking towards the presidential palace. That's the planned march. There have been accusations of police brutality in previous days, and there's of course this state of emergency that's been passed in Parliament, granting authorities and the army with stronger powers.
Clovis, thank you for that. France 24's Clovis Casali reporting from Beirut.